Okay, now we're going to move in. As I said, in honor of the great Phil Donahue, we're going to do this as a talk show. We've got some great people here joining us. Let me welcome to the stage to further this conversation my partner, the inspiration for much of this program, Frank Luntz, pollster. Frank Luntz, where's Frank? Frank is, come on up, Frank. Frank is going to co-moderate this with me, and I want to tell you his incredible forum that he did at the Milken Institute, where he created odd bedfellow understandings about this, was fantastic. So we've got Frank coming up and joining us, and then I'd like to invite our panel up here, Senator Sheldon Whitehouse. Let's give a round of from Rhode Island. Senator Whitehouse, come join us. We have Senator Peter Welch from Vermont, my good friend. We have Representative Don Beyer. And, well, hey, Peter, good to see you. And do we have Liz here? Is Liz Shuler here? Liz Shuler. Oh, Liz, hi, I didn't see you coming up. Okay, come on up. Liz Shuler, come on up. Come join us. Right here. Anywhere. Grab a chair, grab a mic. Yeah, it's very loose in here. Yeah. Go ahead, Don. Senator, go ahead and sit. So, here we go. Thank you, Liz. Thank you for joining us. You know all these people already, right? So, okay, there you go. All right, let's sit down and talk. And I want to ask Frank to help set us up. Frank has some quick charts. He's going to hopefully do short form, but just give us a real quick view, Frank, of the terrain and how it's changed in this country.
So it's a privilege to sit up here with you all. Hopefully this is loud enough. They've got a microphone here.
I don't know if we can hear it.
You can hear it. Guys,
is somebody dialing it?
Thank you.
Okay, go ahead.
I'm going to give you 5 examples. And by the way, you should know that it's an honor to be at the Democratic convention. I will tell you that the Republicans hate me, and the Democrats don't.
Have you become a Democrat?
No, I have not, and the Democrats don't. So basically, I'm a man without a country, so please don't worry. I feel just like the senator from Vermont.
Right.
There is one word, and I'm going to give you a gift.
Right.
You can hold these for 1 second. I don't want
Sorry, Peter.
There's one word that I want you to use every time we talk about education. We ask the question of the public, parents, kids, everyone, a single word that says that education is succeeding. What do we want most from education is what? Not relevance. Not jobs.
Money.
Not success.
Money.
Not opportunity. Good. See, never together. What'd you say? Not well. No.
Okay, give me the answer. We're running out of time.
Engaged. I have $50 if anyone got it, because I want you to remember it. Because the language, if you get the language wrong, you're not going to get the reform you're looking for. You're not going to get the change you're looking for. Next is that it is not about teachers. It is not about schools. It is not about education. The number one value that they're looking for is children or kids, and it's all about them. Third, accountability alienates some people. No excuses, no exceptions. It's the language that communicates that you really want to make a change.
Right.
And finally, what is absolutely critical in getting people, they have to see that things are going to be better in the future. That word better, not improved, not reformed, making a better system for all children. And if you want to use equity, don't. Equity is a phrase for this room.
Right.
Equity is for all of us here, but not out there. If you're going to get Republicans and Democrats, conservatives and liberals, every student in every community, in every corner of the country, everyone, all of us together, that is a better way than saying equity, and I'm begging you. If you want to be successful, it's not about your effort, it's not about your desire, you've got to get the language right. Please do.
Let's thank Frank Luntz. Now he's engaged in the program. And I want to come to Senator Whitehouse first. And, you know, this is interactive. You can respond to each other, jump in. Sheldon, do you have a mic? Sheldon, do you have a mic there? You want a mic? You've got a mic.
Got a mic.
To come back to what Michael Mulgrew just said about silos, it really hit me. And I don't want to be in a silo today either. And so when I think about the subjects, whether it was in the Republican convention, the Democratic convention, how to improve the world, how do the world make the better for the next generation, it's really about social contract. It's really about civitas. It's really about something much more. We're talking about one element here, but we're also talking about what sort of ethics we're instilling in people. And I'd like to, you're one of, everyone here on stage is sort of the ethics equation in government, but I'm interested in how our conversation about diversifying and enriching opportunities for students can also be part of the ethics journey for youth in America.
Well, I think Mike used the term relevance. I think
ethics might be a bad word, according to Frank. Maybe it's engaged. I don't know.
I think it's probably fine. Anyway, we all know what we're talking about. But to the extent relevance is a goal, I think you need to push beyond having that be like career and technical education relevance. It has to be relevance to life.
Hold it closer.
And one of the things that kids are trying to learn where they go to school is, like, who can you trust? And what institutions can you trust? And for what? And how does this fit into my world, where they're reaching out beyond the family that's raising them? And it just seems to me that kind of since 2010, we've been in an extremely corrupted public environment. And I picked 2010 because that's when Citizens United came down and just launched all this ghastly dark money into our politics and stopped climate progress and all that kind of stuff. So I think one of the things that's relevant for a child working through their education is to learn about these issues of trust and reliability and integrity and honesty, and that can be learned in real time. I'm afraid that lessons plans might predate Citizens United, so people aren't kind of up to speed on that and how it's rolled out. But if you've got a kid who's reading in the newspaper about a Supreme Court justice who got a free $250,000 motor coach,
right,
who has his dependents' tuition paid,
right,
by somebody, who has his mom's rent paid by the same person, whose wife is receiving money on the side from the same outfit, and that's all in the news, and nobody's talking to them about, like, how is this supposed to work and where should trust properly be, then I think it makes the world a lot more confusing. So I think I would go back to that word relevance and try to make sure that the civic engagement is relevant.
I want to bring Frank in. Frank, you jump in your question, but while I'm doing that, I'm going to start walking around and invite Congressman Mark Takano to come up and join us on stage, be part of this conversation. So Mark, thank you so much for joining us. Mark Takano from California. A round of applause. You can be part of this. So Frank, over to you.
Yeah.
What will get us back on the right track? No other attribute comes higher than trust. The key is problem solving and critical thinking. It's not English, it's not math, it's not necessarily sexy, but that is the component that parents desperately want.
Right.
Because they want skills for real life. All that I'm asking of you, and I will keep pushing and pushing until I die, is for you all to communicate in a way that parents want to receive it, rather than politicize it. Rather than separating and condemning people, on education it should be the one issue. Like foreign policy, where the partisanship stops at the school gates, and where we focus on working together, side by side, rolling up your sleeves. I never would have said this 10 years ago. I now believe it so strongly now, but we all have to do it, and we have to call out our own side when we get it wrong.
Right. Let me bring in Peter Welch. Senator Welch, I love saying Senator Welch, by the way. I've known you for way too long. But Peter, you have been one of the most major players in health and healthcare. We just heard from Jenny Kane on what's going on in CT and healthcare. But I'm interested in your story, and as as I pitched this idea of, hey, come talk about CTE and high school options, you jumped on it right away and said yes. So I just want to ask you, why are you here? Why does this topic matter to you?
Well, it's existential. I mean, how our kids get educated and how they have a sense of who they are, how they have a sense of agency, how they have a sense of confidence to be able to face the day and overcome setbacks along the way. That's what education fundamentally is about. There's a lot of focus now on career education, because we need folks to fill jobs that are really important for us in healthcare, in technology, you name it, okay? And there's a lot of talk about public-private partnerships, and a lot of us are absolutely encouraging that. We're trying to get, with Amy Klobuchar and Mike Brown, the 529 program to be able to apply to technical education. But I actually think Frank has a point, and Mr. Mulgrew had a point, and that is, bottom line, if you're a parent, the thing you desperately want to see is that your child is actually engaged in something, and you don't really care that much what it is. It might be theater that just gets them motivated. It might be literature. It might be writing. It might be technology. But the goal has to be that child being engaged. And that's what gives me, and all of us, I think, as a parent.
Being.
Yeah. And I think he's really right about that. Huh. And the other thing is the silos, I mean, they don't work. It's got to be organic. And by the way, that organic has to apply to a community into which a person who gets a good technical education has some hope of being able ultimately to buy a house, to be able to afford health care, to be able to raise their kids. And by the way, that is gone. It is such a crisis in Vermont. We have folks who, if they do the best they can, they get out of school, their prospects of buying a home, they don't exist, all right? That's a scandal. So the organic, non-silo approach has to be concerned. Thank you.
Great, Peter. And Liz Shuler, I want to jump in here. You know, earlier, what I'm thinking of, and Frank and I are friends, have been friends for a long time. I'm sorry that the Republicans are giving him a tough time because I was using you as my Republican, candidly, in today's program. But I think there's something going on. There was Randy Weingarten showed me some data that just came out this morning showing, I think the number is 86% of Americans, Democrats and Republicans, both CTE as the number one priority they see in education. So that's across the aisle. That means in Milwaukee and in Chicago, 86% of those people who care about education see this topic as something that's a real pathway for them. So Liz, representing all of labor, right? You're like the labor, Wizard of Oz. I'm sorry?
I said the Grand Poobah.
The Grand Poobah. There are other, So how, when you're looking at this and you're looking at the future of labor rights, and making this a healthier economy, that's what the bottom line is today. What's your equation? How do unions need to evolve and grow to understand and embrace healthy economy and what we're discussing?
Yeah, and it's 12.5 million workers in this AFL-CIO umbrella and 60 different unions, and Randy Weingarten being the leader in terms of this topic, and, bringing back this connection between where we're going as a country and an economy and how the labor movement fits into that, how we build community and opportunity and pathways. She has been a passionate driver in this, and Ruslan, thank you so much too for the partnership here. And
Can we have a round of applause for XQ Institute too?
Absolutely.
I want to do all my conferences with you.
When I was on my way here, I was looking at the description for this event, and it said essentially building alliances and kind of catalyzing change. And I thought, wow, I showed up and saw this room and the players in this room, and bringing together surprising alliances is, I think, what we're talking about here. But truly, after so many years of disinvestment, we think about at the turn of the century how the labor movement was always the center of gravity with industry to build the future of that training and talent pipeline. And then it sort of fell off over a period of years because I think companies saw it as sort of a competitive advantage or disadvantage to invest.
Right.
Threw it onto the government's back, and then the government was like, well, we don't have the funding. And then, of course, it falls on the public schools. And this narrative and demonization that has taken place even just in the last 10 years has called into question, right, people's trust. So getting back to trust, which was brought up just a minute ago, we are now, fast forward today, thanks to the work of like Randy and others, unions are the most trusted messengers. We are at an all-time high because people see us out there fighting for them. And so if you have now 70%, I think, of the public trusts unions, believes in unions, I think it's almost 90% of people under the age of 30 think unions are good for this country and is a backbone. We should look to the labor movement and its models to scale these kinds of programs, whether it's in education, in healthcare, manufacturing, entertainment. We have examples now in culinary and hospitality. We have the playbook.
Right.
We just need the investment piece and this partnership of these unusual allies, all seeing that if we do this together, this is the way our country is going to be more competitive. And we actually build the future for all the disruption that's coming, whether it's technology, climate change, et cetera.
Right, Liz, I want to bring in Don and Mark, but the Brad Smith of Microsoft was in this morning talking about his robust partnership, not just with AFT, but with AFL-CIO, which I didn't know about. I mean, it was sort of a surprise for me. How many other companies do you have in your back pocket that you're partnering with on this?
Well, Microsoft took a leap, took a chance. And actually, not many people are aware, too. It's a partnership on AI and getting worker voices into the labs, in with the developers, front-loading worker voice in the development of technology. But it's also a commitment to neutrality, where unions people can form unions within the Microsoft footprint and its supply chain. So getting back to trust, yet again, this is about trust and relationships. That if we are able to work with a company like Microsoft, the biggest technology company in the world, to say that workers should be at the center of what we're building together, many more companies we hope will follow. And I know Randy's partnership with Micron is yet another example. But I think that the key here is with AI, I think, I can't remember who at the end was talking in the last panel about AI, that will be the disruptor no matter what type of job you have. We as a country need to plan for that education pipeline of how people are going to move fluidly through this economy.
So Congressman Beyer, Congressman Takano, I want to bring you both in this. Congressman Beyer, just so that folks know, went back to school. He's sort of like a career tech ed example himself and learned to code, went back late in life. I hear you're a great coder. Want to hear more about that. But also, you know, Mark Takano, we all have diverse portfolios of the people who are up here, is co-chairman of Outpac, you know, and you work a lot on inclusion questions broadly.
Equality PAC.
Equality PAC. They got merged in my mind, but Equality PAC, and also has done so much in veterans and sort of advancing, you know, veterans opportunities. So when I look at this, and I come back to this question about civitas, social contract, ethics, it's also, you know, in high school youth we're looking about, but it's basically about a bigger equation than just that. So, Don, I want you to share with us why this topic is of concern to you and your constituents, and let me make it tough on you. What haven't you and your colleagues done on this front that you want to do and get accomplished?
Easy questions. First of all, I want to tell you, I got invited to be a peer tutor this morning. I'm so excited. It's great. On computer science. So I'm the oldest one ever to be invited to do that. Right?
Great.
You know, having invested so much in it at my age in the computer science, I actually find myself pulled back to the earliest starts. That if I look at what's happening in the school systems in Northern Virginia, I think I'm most excited about is the emphasis on getting everybody reading at grade level by age 3. Because if you can't read, you can't progress. I ran car dealerships for years, so I became a huge fan of blue-collar intelligence. You know, there are people without college educations, even without high school degrees, that are dramatically intelligent and can fix wiring systems or whatever in ways that we can't imagine. But if they can't read, they can't progress and they can't grow their things. So that would be number one. And that, of course, gets back to all of life, all of communication is about story. And if you can't read, you don't get the story, you don't get the empathy, you don't get the ability to test all the garbage that's out there and throw it away.
Mark?
Well, my Veterans Affairs sort of profile is often emphasized. And what's not been sort of kind of brought to the fore is my 24-year stint in the public schools. And 22 years as a community college trustee. That was my experience before I became a member of Congress. And I have to say, to Frank Luntz, that one area of bipartisan, I think, convergence is over the concept of concurrent enrollment, where you can earn college credit at the same time that you're earning a high school degree. and that we want more engaging high schools. I had the privilege of looking at experiments in New York City under Mayor Bloomberg, early college high schools. Enormously popular, enormously successful, and I always thought we needed some intense program for career and technical education. I'm happy to say that one of the things we did when we brought back earmarks, $1.5 million earmark for Riverside Community College to do the curriculum development and planning for the Inland Empire Technical Trade Center.
Right.
Working with labor unions, we have enormous shortage of skilled positions in the trades. And what's the idea? Not only can you earn stackable credentials, a high school degree, at the same time you're earning a certificate in a trade, but you earn while you learn. That's an important part. You earn while you're learning. You're earning stackable credentials that will lead to college. We don't have to make a false choice that it's the old school vocational tech, which minorities were tracked into, and which many minority communities are vehemently opposed to when they hear vocational education. We reinvented that concept under career and technical to get around that stigma. And our task is, look, what I dislike most about this current environment we're in, the polarized environment we're in, I represent minority communities, immigrants, who believe in education as their way out. And we don't want to suppress that. We don't want to make it wrong. We don't want to make higher ed wrong. We need basic science. We need people, brilliant people to develop. We need to develop everybody. But as we have all said in the first session, the pathway in career and tech ed leads to college in many cases, and is the foundation for college.
Great. I want to give the senators here an opportunity to weigh in a moment before I thank them both for joining us, because I've got some other members who are going to come in. But yes.
Let me just introduce.
Oh, okay.
Let me just do.
Hold on a second. You've got a streaming here. Sorry. Why don't you stand so the screen can see you?
Because I think Senator Whitehouse. Can you hear me now, or should I use my
right? No, you've got to do it for the screen.
I think the senator earlier said, about civic engagement and what we need to do about these things. I think that Westmore in Maryland has been doing some work. Sorry, I don't want to have my back to you. Has been doing some work in this in terms of service learning that actually helps us expand this notion on career tech ed, because career tech ed is an example of engagement.
Right.
It is a way of creating that engagement and creating a sense for kids, for children, to see the world as their own and want to be involved and engaged in it. So I just think, Fagan, for a minute, talk about the service learning that Governor Moore
and this is Fagan Harris, Chief of Staff to Senator Westmore, or Governor, he's not a senator yet, so Governor Westmore from Maryland, my governor. Fagan, thank you so much for being here. Tell us your story quick, and I'm going to tell people we're going to do this a little differently. Fagan's going to speak. We're going to have a couple of comments from here. I've got 3 members of Congress, and as I understand it, Gina Raimondo's here with us too. So we've got a lot to accomplish in the next few minutes. So Fagan, go ahead.
I'll be brief. Thanks for having this conversation. It's so important.
And why don't you look at the audience? There we go.
The governor has a vision of a universal service option in Maryland where every young person can serve in their community full-time.
Hold the mic closer.
For several years across the state. Almost 2/3 of our service year participants move into registered apprenticeships. So in that way, it serves as a bridge to this career technical education.
Give us the number of people that is.
We've had almost 300 this past cycle, and we're scaling to 2,000 over his first term a year. And part of that is in response to the fact that we've got 60,000 graduates every year coming out of our high schools. 15,000 of them don't necessarily know where they're going or what they want to do, and they're not necessarily engaged in the college path or even in the world of work. And so as the governor says, service helps us find out what makes our heart beat a little faster, and connecting that passion and purpose, this point around engagement, to career pathways that can make the biggest difference for our economy. And so we're excited about service as a strategy to bridge to this career technical world.
Thank you so much.
Can I give polling, one piece of polling data? Almost 70% of Americans actually want to make that a requirement. They believe that young people should be giving something to their country in return for their country giving something to them. It is across the spectrum, so you're doing exactly what the American people want you to do.
Yeah.
Thank
I
you.
hope we can normalize service
Right.
as something that every young person wants to do in this country, and by making it universally available and accessible, I think we're moving decisively in that direction.
And he's sitting back there. I just want to introduce, if you'll stand up, Daniel Beck. This gentleman just graduated from Sapper School. He was at the West Point Military Academy, graduated with honors. Daniel, you're a living, breathing example of what is great about America and the service that you give to this country.
Excellent. Thank you.
For
Thank you
what
so much.
Thank you.
Senator Welch, I'm going to give you a chance for a final word, and I want to thank you for joining us.
You know, the engagement point, I think, is really being reaffirmed here. And it can be getting that opportunity. It can be getting that opportunity in school. It can be getting that opportunity in service. Well,
Right.
by the way, when you do service, you're not just learning about something that interests you. You're learning about personal responsibility and the empowerment that comes when one accepts
Right.
the ability to be responsible. That's exciting.
Right.
So engagement, and then, of course, the key, all of us can remember that special teacher who somehow made us feel that, hey, maybe I can be somebody. So God bless our teachers. Thank you.
Thank you. Give a round of Senator Welch. Thank you for joining us. Senator Whitehouse, final thought?
My final thought would be that there's immense pressure in my line of work for Americans to be treated like and to behave like consumers. Sit on the couch, let the big special interests throw the ads onto your TV screen, and thumbs up, thumbs down based on the crap that you see on your TV screen. And I think the best place to begin pushing back against that consumer political model to a citizenship and more active political model is by starting that in the schools with a very solid civics and integrity program.
Thank you, Senator. Liz Shuler, final thought, Liz Shuler. Peter, come this way. Thank you so much.
I think we're on the right track, and thanks to convenings like this and bringing us all together, this is going to be an issue that is going to continue to evolve. But we have a chance to get it right this time versus in the past where we disinvested, we moved to for-profit models for education, and I think now we have the opposite in front of us, which is invest, partner, look for unusual allies, bring all of us together to make sure that workers have an opportunity for the future, bringing people of color, young people, women from the sidelines into the center of these new jobs that are emerging with all this investment, and that the labor movement is the stabilizing force to make that happen.
Thank you so much. Liz Shuler, President of the AFL-CIO, thank you so much for joining us. Now, no, Don, you're sitting. Stay. All right, now please welcome to the stage my good friend Brendan Boyle. Brendan Boyle of Pennsylvania, Eric Swallow of California, Jamal Bowman of New York. So great to have all of you here with us. Come join the conversation. Now I'm going to do something. Where's Gina? Gina here? I was told Gina was here. All right, we're not going to do that yet. Okay. Well, we'll get her. Okay, we're going to have start. Well, thank you all for joining us, and we're going to get you. You guys know Mark Takano? Yeah. You know Don Beyer? Okay. Eric, let me start with you, and then jump to Jamal. Actually, I'm going to start with Jamal. Jamal, you had a piece of legislation in, and I'm going to butcher this, but it said something like more teaching and less testing. Is that about right?
Yes, sir.
And I'm interested in, from the community and the part of the dashboard on education that we should be caring about, because a lot of people want to come in every year and reinvent the wheel. What's broken in education? Today we've convened a lot of people from different corners. We've got XQ Institute hanging out with the American Federation of Teachers. This is what I would call a growth opportunity. And I'm interested in what you see as broken that needs to be fixed. You're going to be leaving Congress. And as you move on to your next phase, are you going to keep trying to fix it?
Why you had to start with that, man? I mean, why we got to start with?
I'm an Nixonian realist.
No, yes, I'm going to continue to try to fix it. The bill, more teaching, less testing, is just forcing us to take a step back and examine exactly what we should be measuring our kids against in alignment with the demands of a 21st century economy. Our education system is over 100 years old. When we tried to fix it with No Child Left Behind, what No Child Left Behind did was leave a lot of children behind. And it left a lot of children behind because of the overuse and research shows misuse of standardized testing every year overabundantly on kids in elementary and middle school, while again not meeting them where they are to really understand what their needs are, aligning what we teach and how we teach to those needs, but also aligning to a 21st century economy. The most important skills our kids need now, we talked a lot about CTE, absolutely that is true, but we need to talk about the 21st century skills that children need. So critical thinking, collaboration, emotional intelligence, entrepreneurial mindsets. These are the skills that kids need to not just get jobs in the 21st century economy, but to thrive in the 21st century.
I want to bring in Mark real quick with the two finger. Just 1 second, because he was jumping out of his chair on the 21st century economy. But you're also, Mark, as I understand it, really thinking about the global economy and the global dimensions of competition.
Thank you for that. And to back up Jamal, I got to say, when I first got into Congress, there was a teacher who was here in Washington to testify before some of the appropriations committee to make sure they funded money for achievement tests and for advanced placement tests. And why was he here? Because he was an incredibly successful physics teacher in a uniformly low-income school district of Latinos. Okay, he could not cream the best and wealthiest kids from that district. He was very successful. He produced, for the whole state of California, the lion's share of Latinos who scored 4s and 5s on the physics AP. And ironically, he was spreading interest in physics throughout the general population, not just AP. His philosophy was, often the AP teachers take the best students, and what about the rest? And he was making everybody successful in physics. But here's the thing. The ironic thing that happened was he wanted more money, more resources from the principal to create these other classes. And the principal said, well, I can't do that because I've got to give more money to the test prep to do the high-stakes testing. He was the biggest opponent of high-stakes testing as getting in the way. What we need now, the crisis, and I asked Michael Town, what is it? What is the secret to your sauce? We need teachers who teach physics, who know physics. We need chemistry teachers who know chemistry. We need biology teachers who know biology. We need subject matter expertise that is much more developed than we currently have in America's high schools. We can push high school students to much further heights, challenge them more, but we need to make those investments in teaching and cultivating instructors and treating high school teachers with dignity.
Thank you. Frank, I want to bring Frank, and then I get Brendan Boyle and Eric Swalwell in, and then we're going to have Gina Raimondo join us. But
I'm going to do language with you, and then I have to leave, and I'm grateful to be here. Not dignity, it's respect. By 2 to 1. Respect, because respect is something that people understand, and it's mutual respect. So this is what parents are looking for. Number 2, you gave the whole list of the priorities. The first one is problem solving. The second one is critical thinking. And the third one is team building. So these are not traditional language. These are not traditional topics, but they really do matter. And one last thing. We're not Republicans or Democrats. We are Americans, and we are parents, and we are children, and we have brothers and sisters in all of this. Don't just say it, actually practice it. That there should be more conversations like this, opening it up to everyone. They are not your enemy, or we should not be enemies. We may disagree on policy, but please, if you really want to solve it, it'll be Republicans and Democrats going forward together. You and I, this guy's come to more of my classes than any other member of Congress.
Eric Swalwell?
Yes.
What grade did he get?
Finally learned something?
Okay, I do the jokes here.
What grade? What grade?
I thank you very much for allowing me to be here, and guys, thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, Frank Luntz, thank you so much for joining us, Frank. Really appreciate it. And thank you to our student from West Point as well. Congressman Boyle, you and Eric both said immediately this was a priority, and I'm just interested, again, to come back at this question if we were going to change the frame. Both of you have a vote, you have power, your ability to, I tell people when I used to run a think tank, I don't know if Ruslan thinks about this when you have a fellow working for you. I say, look, your job, is not just to embarrass the bad decisions of government. You've got to put a better idea on the table, right? Putting a better idea on the table is harder to do. But when it comes to constructively engaging with disrupting education, creating a healthier economy, creating more options for high school students, what are your thoughts, Brendan?
Yeah, well, first I come to this as not a public school teacher myself, but the husband of a 25-year public school teacher, and my wife who teaches second grade.
Wow.
She's taught both in suburban environments as well as in the city of Philadelphia. And when I talk to her about it, she happens to teach at a school that focuses on mathematics and technology.
Right.
And what's interesting is she has taught at the school now for the last 5 years or so. Most of her previous experience was in a more traditional public school. She has been able to notice a bit of the difference just exposing kids at an earlier age. My daughter attends the same school. The reason why they can't be here is school starts next week, and my daughter will be starting 5th grade then. She has had exposure in a way that first would have been unthinkable in any previous generation just because of the way technology has developed.
Right.
But also compared to her peers who were a similar age, her just familiarity with devices, and it really knocked down what I think for a lot of kids, even myself, can be a sort of intimidating barrier once they are exposed to it at a later age. So final point on this, there is a whole collective in Philadelphia that is specifically working on addressing the problem of equity when it comes to kids and their first exposure to technology. I think that you'll see more and more of a focus on that in the near years ahead.
Can I say something about exposure?
Yeah, go ahead.
I ultimately don't think the kids are going to be the problem. I think when it comes to exposure, I don't worry as much about the kids because the teachers are doing such a great job, and that's just how they're wired. I'm worried about us, like policymakers, and whether we actually understand what the hell is going on in the economy. Now, Don, and my colleagues up here are exceptions. Don, by the way, went and took AI classes on his own so he could understand what's going on in AI, and that's so impressive. But we are of what I call...
Have you done that yet?
Yes, and I'm going to get there in a second.
That's impressive.
But we are of the nodding class. If you come into our office and you're talking about a technology we don't understand, we just go, deep or a twin. What's it called? There's a digital twin. Yeah. Tell me more about that. And we just nod. And we're so afraid to say, what the hell is a digital twin? Because it will reveal that we don't know, and we want you to think we know everything. And so what I have found, and I was elected when I was 31, so I was the IT help desk for many years, setting people up on Snapgram and... This is good, but just remember short form. I did all of that, but I realized that you have to force us to learn. Yeah. And you can't just tell us about these issues, and we're such simple creatures. Show and tell. Come in with your tablet and say, Congressman, I want to show you what we're trying to teach kids in our classroom right now. This is what AI is, and I'm going to walk you through it. That is the best way for us. Don't assume we know this, our staff better, but we very much need to be educated by you, and that's how we're going to get to the best policy. In 3 minutes, I'm bringing the Honorable Gina Raimondo up here, and she's coming up in her personal capacity. But regardless of what her role may be, one of the big changes in the topography of the U.S. economy is a much deeper investment in technology, in chips, the merging of national security into some of these areas. Kathy Hochul, the governor of New York, talked about its importance. So in 30 seconds, I'm going to start with Mark Takano. Can you tell us what opportunity that presents to high school students into the way we teach and wire our future? And if you can do it short form, I'd be grateful. Mark?
Well, I think what I want to say is we can all, I don't know if we're going to get members of Congress to go get more education, but one thing I deeply believe in is that Congress needs more expertise in technology and policy. I have argued for a long time, and I've inherited this amendment from the guy who was a physicist. It's the Office of Technology Assessment. We used to have 200 people who helped Congress understand this, scientists and technologists. We desperately need that kind of expertise to inform us about technology policy and science policy. Okay.
5 seconds, Don. I've been told Gina's got to go, so.
Quick shout out to the high schools already. I was taking Python and Java at university. The kids already know it when they get there.
Got it. Jamal? Real short.
We have to start earlier than high school. We have to do this in middle school. We have to do this in elementary school.
Great.
We need to prioritize early childhood education as well.
Brandon?
One other idea.
Eric?
One other idea for Randy. We have military fellows in the Congress. I would love to have a teaching fellow. My last district director was a teacher.
I think that can be a deal. That can be a deal. Brandon, final word.
I get that exposure at home, so probably while I use a teaching
short form
fellow, probably don't need it. But again, like I said earlier, and Jamal said, the earlier the exposure, the better.
Right. Ladies and gentlemen, Congressman Brendan Boyle, Congressman Eric Swalwell, Congressman Jamal Bowman, Congressman Don Beyer, Congressman Mark Takano, thank you all so much for coming.